This video is from my mate Big Steve, aka TCB Since 73. I guess a lot of you watching this video will already know that Steve had a bit of a health scare a few days ago, just before the anniversary of Elvis's death, and he's still in hospital as I speak. We keep in touch a little bit by email, and he asked me if there was anything new. So rather than tell him in an email, I thought I'd show him in this video, and you're welcome to watch as well. I've also got another couple of albums that would be of great interest to Steve, because he's into other stuff as well as Elvis, as I am. And one of those albums does have a slight Elvis connection, so hopefully you'll stick around as I show those two as well. So let's begin with a couple of Elvis albums that I've got recently. And the first one is this Japanese copy of A Date with Elvis. And you might say, well, there's nothing remarkable about that. It's just a stereo copy of A Date with Elvis. This is actually the first stereo copy that came out in Japan as late as 1965. And it was actually the first time that they'd used the same front cover as the American album. In the original 1959 Japanese album, the pictures at the bottom were slightly different. The back cover, being Japanese, is completely different. And among other things on the back there, it has a little fact file, some interesting tidbits about Elvis, and including one little quote from Elvis about his views on marriage. So I'll read that to you, and let me know if you're familiar with this quote. 私が独身であるのは理想の人と会えないからでしょう. You didn't know Elvis could speak Japanese, did you? No, but seriously, it says that he's not married because he hasn't met the right person. And he says he doesn't want to be like a lot of other people in Hollywood who marry over and over again. He's waiting for the right person, and one day he hopes to father little Elvis. So if you're familiar with that quote, let me know when and where he said that. One other interesting thing about the notes on the back here, they do actually get the recording dates of the songs wrong. It says they're all recorded between 56 and 58. But of course, half of the album was actually recorded in 1955 or earlier. But I guess back then there wasn't as much information about Elvis as there is now. I mean, I knew that information when I bought this album as a teenager in 1980. But back in the 1960s, I guess they didn't have as much information about Elvis in Japan. And I'll show you the record. This one actually has a different title in Japanese. It's called The King of Rock in Japanese, although everywhere in English it just says A Date with Elvis. So this was the third release of the album in Japan. The first two were in mono. All the covers were different. All three covers were different at that point. And all the Japanese titles were different as well. The first two were slight variations on A Date with Elvis, and that one was called The King of Rock, as I say. Then they re-released it in 1970 with a new cover. They also re-released this album, the first album, and this one was also called The King of Rock. Exactly the same title. And it's even got The King of Rock in English on the labels and on the back there as well. So they couldn't call A Date with Elvis The King of Rock. They gave it another cover, so the fourth different cover. They actually called it The Essence of Rock, although it doesn't say that in English on the label. So that's the first one, the first stereo copy of A Date with Elvis. And it remained in stereo actually all the way until 1992, when it was finally re-released in mono again. The last release of the album. Anyway, the next one I have is another reissue. It's a reissue of this album here, Elvis's Golden Story Volume 1. I've shown this album before. Absolutely essential collection for anyone who's interested in Elvis's Japanese releases. It's a compilation from 1965, and it contains his big hits from the 1950s. And when it first came out, they issued it with this rather stylish Starburst Obi, and later on, when Elvis's records switched to the RCA label in Japan, they reissued it with a straight red, plain red Obi here. And it's taken me a long time to find this one. This is actually one of two variants. They're very similar design, the red text, sorry, the red obi with the black and white text. But this one is the first of the two because it actually has a mistake in the Japanese. So the catalog number at the top is correct, SRA 5010, but at the bottom here it actually says volume 2. And the version of volume 2, which came out at the same time, also has an incorrect obi. It has the correct catalog number at the top, but at the bottom it says volume 1. And what's quite interesting about these albums, Golden Story Volume 1 and 2, is they use different characters for the Volume 1 and Volume 2 to other album series, like the Golden Record series. So the characters here are actually usually used for books. So first book and second book in a 2-volume series. And just to show you what I'm talking about, on this copy here of Gold Records Volume 4, at the back there, the title is in Japanese, but they use different characters here for Volume 4, Daiyonshu. So that literally means number 4 collection, or collection number 4. Whereas, as I say, with the Golden Story records, they used upper and first and second volume, or literally upper and lower volume. And I suppose the reason why they did this is because they actually are like books, not only with the gatefold cover, but also with the pictures and the pages that you get on the inside. A lot of quite rare photos as well on the inside here. And of course the usual text and lyrics. And there's the back cover as well. So there is also another version of this album with the correct obi, catalog number and the title are both correct, but I believe that one came after this one. And that would have been the very last copy of, the very last pressing of this album. So this one's close to the end from the early 70s. So those are some new Elvis stuff, new Elvis items I've got recently. Let's have a look at something else that might be of interest to Steve and hopefully everyone else. Okay, so as well as Elvis, I know that Steve is a big Bob Dylan fan, as I am. I don't have that many Japanese Bob Dylan records, but I've got a few, and I'm going to show you a couple that I'm sure Steve will be pretty pleased to see, and hopefully they'll be of interest to some of you as well. One of them actually does have a little bit of an Elvis connection, as I'll explain in a moment. The first one is this original copy of John Wesley Harding from 1968, June 1968, as it says on the back there somewhere. This is the only copy of this album I've ever seen. Sadly, it doesn't have the obi, but I'm just glad to have it. There's a record. I do like these old orange CBS labels. So that's that one. And I also have a really cool 3LP compilation called Masterpieces. This one, I think, originally came out of Australia, but not too many countries released it as well as Australia. This is the Japanese version. And the difficult thing with the Japanese one is actually finding a complete set, because it came with quite a few goodies, as it explains on the front of the obi here. This one that I have is complete, so I'll show you what else came with it. Here's the cover. It's a trifold. So the first thing that it came with is a poster, and it's a really big one, so I'm not going to pull it out. I'll put a picture of it on screen so you can see what it looks like. There it is, folded up. It also came with a card which reads Bob Dylan Fan Certificate, so that's proof that I'm a fan. Can't argue with that. It's got 00138 at the top. This is the thing that almost never turns up with the album. And the other thing that came is this really nice booklet. So the Elvis connection here, of course, is Elvis recorded 3 of Bob Dylan's songs. Which were Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, Tomorrow Is a Long Time, and I Shall Be Released. And all those songs are actually on this set. A really good compilation, some rare tracks, some hits, and some live stuff as well. Pretty impressive package. Any Bob Dylan fans watching? And if so, what other Bob Dylan songs would you have liked Elvis to have recorded? I can't think of any offhand, but if I think of any, I'll put them on screen when I'm editing. Nearly there. And then at the back, discography. I'll just show you one of the records because by then the label design had changed. I think from the maybe early 70s or late 60s, they started using this orange and white design. So there you are, Steve. I hope you enjoyed that. And get well soon, mate. And we want to see you back in that squeaky chair. We all know you've got tons of records that you haven't shown us yet. So get yourself home as soon as you can. Look after yourself, and hopefully we'll see you back on YouTube soon. Everybody else, thanks for watching, and any comments as usual, please leave them in the comment section below. But I'm going to get out of here because, as a viewer of mine once said to me in the comment section, talk too much. I usually respond with a sarky comment when I get comments like that, but I wasn't in the mood for arguing that day, so I just wished him a nice day. So have a nice day to you all too. Cheers.
僕スタンリーだ。
ロニーだ。
大歓迎だ。
ありがとう。
僕のブラシだけど。
ああ、そうか、ごめんよ。ここに寝ろって言われたけど。
うん、もちろんいいと思う。けどよくブラッドが荷物運んだね。
とってもいいやつだ。持つって聞かないんだ。
少しおめでたいのさ。じゃあ君はこっちのふんわかしたベッドを使えよ。
ああ、ありがとう。